Thank you for the invitation, AIOC, especially Dr. Fairouz for the kind invitation. Such a nice program you have made. I'll be talking on periocular trauma, the advanced puzzle. I have no financial interest, and informed consent for the presentation, photograph presentation has been taken from the patient. Injuries to the periocular region are often complex and involve multiple anatomic structures. To avoid post-traumatic functional and cosmetic sequelae, reconstructive expertise is required. Optimal aesthetic and functional outcome can be achieved through a meticulous planning and knowledge of facial reconstructive technique. In periocular trauma, the structure which are affected are eyelid, both anterior and the posterior lamella, the lacrimal system, and the bony orbit. So the periocular trauma can be simply classified as eyelid trauma, lacrimal injury, and orbital fracture. The eyelid laceration again can be classified according to the location as non-marginal, marginal, medial and lateral canthal tear, and canaliculi tear. The non-marginal tear again can be classified as superficial, where there is the skin and the part of the orbicularis is affected, and deep, as in this case, there is the depth of cut injury is almost up to the bony orbital rim. This is how the marginal tear looks, where the margin is affected, and according to the defect made in the lid, this can be classified as mild, moderate, severe, that is less than 25%, 25 to 50%, and more than 50%. This is how these canthal tears look. It could be both medial canthal tear, or it could be both medial and lateral canthal tear. In both blunt and penetrating trauma, in both the condition, it can be present. Next is canaliculi tear. It is more common in children and young adult. This canaliculi area, actually the area of dehiscence, so it is very common in all kind of blunt trauma and even penetrating trauma. Lower canaliculi is more vulnerable to tears than the upper canaliculi. So the goal of eyelid repair is to establish the anatomical configuration, to restore the physiological function, to provide a better cosmetic appearance. We will have a step-by-step approach of lid repair. First, we have to evaluate the lid tear, have to take the history of timing, mechanism, and the location. We should ask the question like, was the object is blunt or it is a sharp, whether it constitutes organic or a non-organic metallic object or not, and if it is removed, is it removed in the whole or in pieces. Next, you have to see the stability of the patient. First, you have to check the airway, breathing, and circulation. Have to stable the patient first, then do the complete examination. First, vision and globe perforation has to be checked, and we have to check for the muscle entrapment. Associated injury like palpation of the orbital rim and other facial bone for possible fracture. In imaging any orbital trauma, first CT scan of the orbit and the brain is the first choice of in the imaging of choice, especially in penetrating trauma, in retained foreign body, if you are suspecting some retained foreign body, and in severe blunt trauma to evaluate the concurrent fracture and other intracranial injury. And we should get an image, at least image before the laceration repair. And the next step is wound inspection, cleaning, and documentation. This documentation is very, very important to avoid future medico-legal issues. Then assessment of the lacrimal system, look for the canaliculi and look for the telecanthus. Next is anesthesia point. All the repair should be done under GA in case of children, in an adult with an extensive tear, and if there is associated bone fracture and associated globe repair, and rest of the repair can be repaired by under local anesthesia. The protocol of suturing, I'll tell. First, repair the deep tissue first, and we should use 6O polyglactin or Vicryl suture in repairing periocular tissue. But when we are planning for repairing the lateral canthal tendon, 5O Vicryl or Prolene is the suture of choice. If orbital septum is affected, we should not suture the orbital septum, otherwise it may lead to retraction later on. And when there is extensive tissue loss and some necrotic tissue or infected tissue is there, it should be left alone without suture, and regular dressing and antibiotic will do secondary repair by secondary intention or laissez faire. This is a case showing upper lid septum tear. You can see the fat prolapse is there. So the fat is taken back and the skin suture is done, and this is the post-op picture after 2 weeks. Here is a short video of full thickness marginal tear repair. First 6O silk suture has been passed through the gray line, and it has been taken out from the other end, and again back to the other end in a vertical mattress suture. Then a knot is given, and the remaining tail of the suture kept long. The tarsus plate and the orbicularis is sutured layer by layer by 6O vicryl, and we have to take care to suture the tarsal plate in a lamellar fashion. It should not be a full thickness one. Then the skin is sutured, and the tail of the long suture has been tied with the external skin suture to avoid corneal, avoid touching the cornea. It is very much important to make that now come to the canaliculi tear. Lower canaliculi is more vulnerable to tear than the upper canaliculi, but when there is upper canaliculi tear is there, it is associated with globe rupture in 20 to 25% cases. So when you will get a case of a upper canaliculi tear, always have a high suspicion that their globe may be ruptured. The timing of repair of canaliculi tear, the best is less than 6 hours, but 48 hours is standard of care practice. But still, if it is repaired within 1 to 5 days, there is 95% success reported from a large study from China. So even if we are late, we can always try. We should try to repair the canaliculi with a stent in a first go. The choice of stent, bicanalicular stent has a success rate of 60% rate. Monocanalicular, this is the stent of choice. It has a 89 to 98% success rate. And if both are not available, then 20G silicone rod can be used. And the success of distal tear repair is more than the proximal tear. This is a short video clipping showing the canaliculi tear repair. This is a 10-year-old boy presented with a right eye, lower lid canaliculi tear using a fishing hook. First wound exploration is done to identify the cut end. You can see the distal end is looking wheatish and pearly appearance. First, the puncta is dilated. Then lacrimal probing is done. It is taken out and it is used for the measurement of the required length of the minimonoca stent. The stent is passed through the puncta. The collarate is fixed to the puncta, and then it is passed to the distal end just by pushing slowly. Then the pericanalicular tissue is apposed with 6O vicryl interrupted suture. The skin and muscle closed in layer. Okay. And this is the final appearance. This is the 7-year-old boy with a bicycle handle injury, and he had a full upper lid thickness avulsion with canaliculi tear with a total disruption of the caruncle up to the lower lid canaliculi. He has been repaired with a caruncular reposition and both upper and lower lid minimonuca stent. This is the immediate post-op, and this is the post-operative 2 weeks picture. And both the canaliculi is patent after 6-month follow-up. This is a degloving injury. This is actually a very complex type of eyelid laceration along with some other injury also. This 60 years old lady fell into the railway tract and has this degloving injury. In these cases, it's very important to first to identify the devascularized tissue. We have to debride the devascular tissue, and the rest of the tissue has to be secured by layer. This is the post-operative 1-week picture. You also may get cases like this. There is a cow horn injury. There is total avulsion and loss of upper lid. Cutler-Beer reconstruction with auricular cartilage has been done, and this is the final post-operative 1-month picture. Now I'll just touch upon on the orbital fracture. There is usually a history of blunt trauma. The common manifestation are bruising, numbness, bulging or sunken eye, and AR emphysema. The CT scan of the orbit and brain is the investigation of choice. What are the cases orbital fracture should be urgently referred to the orbit surgeon? These are adult patient with clinical evidence of muscle entrapment and pediatric patient with white eye blowout fracture with the symptoms of nausea, vomiting, bradycardia and syncope. And they should be repaired within 24 hours to 48 hours. This is one of such case has been done. This is another case. This is my last case. I'll show you. This is one 35-year-old male presented with a chronic discharge in the upper eye. He has a history of eyelid repair elsewhere. This is the CT scan showing some soft tissue lesion in the extracornal face. And this is the MRI showing a intense SOL, and on exploration we found this large wooden foreign body in this patient. So it's very important to do when you first time you are repairing, you have to examine the wound very nicely. So
Doctor, so sorry to interrupt,
yes,
but we are
yes,
lagging
this is
time.
my last
So I
slide,
would
please.
request
Yeah.
you to sum up within a minute.
Yes, this is the last slide, please. Yeah. Proper evaluation of the globe and adnexa should be done. We should look for foreign body, and laceration of canaliculus must be repaired and stented to prevent tearing after injury. So periocular trauma demands a thoughtful, well-planned approach in order to provide the best outcome and reduce the chances of post-operative complication. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that extensive talk and some amazing photographs. Periocular trauma is indeed quite a complex subject.
Yes,
I would like Dr. Raman Mittal, sir, to lead the discussion.
Hi, Joyeeta. It was a wonderful presentation.
Yes,
Joyeeta, could you like to tell our audience that what if a patient is to be referred to an oculoplastic surgeon? Whether the primary surgeon should repair the canaliculus with whatever means he or she can and then refer, or should they only patch the eye and send it to you, even it's taking a delay of 1 or 2 days?
In my opinion, it should be referred to a person who is expert on this, because the ultimate final outcome will be better who is expertise on this field, because primary repair time is the best time to get a good result in this thing. So even if you can wait up to 5 days, even a study has shown that up to 5 days the result is 97%, we can get a patent after some weeks.
Yes,
so
I get
would always recommend
that. I also wanted to highlight this aspect. Rather than doing a primary repair, then which may not be as great,
Yes.
because once we reopen the wound, sometimes
Exactly.
the inflammation or the tissue which have sort of partially repaired, then the suturing then gets cheese wired later on. It's very difficult to
Yes,
suture,
exactly.
especially if it is deep down into the medial canthus. One quick thing I would like to have from Dr. Anita Sethi or Dr. Grover, sir, like if it's a long back tear, a canalicular tear which has been blocked.
Exactly.
So now the patient presents to you with a mid-canalular or a proximal canalular block. Would you like to revisit and open up that area of canaliculus and try to make a fresh canalucular tear and open it? How have you performed and what's your experience about it? Am I clear with my question?
Yeah. So if there's a block, would you like to secondary repair it, or would you like to? I don't think it's going to work if you do a secondary repair. Of course, you evaluate the case and see how proximal or distal the block is. I feel it would be better if the patient is very much bothered with epiphora. It might be better to go for a Jones CDCR. Secondary, I mean, depends how long ago and all of that. So if it appears something fresh, which you think you might be able to bypass that, then yes. But if it's something old and there's a lot of epiphora, then it might be better to do a different procedure.
Any of the panelists have a different
Yeah.
view? Because
Dr. Raman, yeah, Dr. Raman.
I was seeing you unrest, so I thought that you will have a different opinion.
Yeah, in my experience, what I'm doing, I will do a small wedge. If the cut is like, vertical, I will do a small wedge so that I can see the distal and the proximal canaliculus, and then routine lid tear with the mini monoca stent. It really works well even after 2-3 months.
Exactly. Actually, this is what I wanted to convey was of late, recently, in last 3-4 years, I've started doing this in old cases also. I try to refashion the wound. I'll create a defect by cutting it on both the ends of the canalucular block and trying to reach the distal end and, repair it like then a new fresh canalucular tear.
Yeah.
If the patient is lucky, it really helps. Otherwise, yes, the options which Dr. Sethi has told and lacrimal gland Botox injections can come to some rescue to the patient. Thank you, Samiksha and Joyeeta. It was wonderful. This